Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California.
Congressman, thank you for joining us. I do think it's important to note, because Democrats were caught flat-footed at the beginning, I would argue, of this administration, that Democrats on the Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee, specifically in the House, have really found their footing. And you all seem to be executing strategies. And particularly today, I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed from my perspective that this was not designed to just get news headlines or so that we could be sitting here speaking with you today, but it was a tool that the minority has to fight back and to get some accountability and some clarity to answer questions folks have. Talk about the subpoena. It has now failed. Where do we go from here?
First of all, Robert Garcia is doing an extraordinary job. He's injected new energy, and he and I huddled in the morning, and we have a group chat on oversight, and we said we planned the timing of when I would introduce the motion in terms of the coordination. And by the way, we got Comer's commitment that he is going to bring in Carr. But look, for a party that has spent the last decade lecturing us about cancel culture, they sure are canceling a lot of people, far more people than we ever canceled. They're canceling universities, canceling Jimmy Kimmel, canceling young people with bad social media posts. I mean, I think the country is realizing who the real cancel culture party is. And they're realizing who the big government party is that is going after private business. There is no Democrat in my lifetime who has done more in terms of intimidating, going after private business than Donald Trump.
So, Congressman, to the point about the cancel culture on the right, which is preeminent right now, I would like to share with you, I guess a somewhat, how should we put it, Simone, ironic tweet from the FCC Commissioner Chair Brendan Carr from 2023. Let's take a look at this. He says, free speech is the counterweight. It is the check on government control. That is why censorship is the authoritarian's dream. I mean, really, it's only been, what, 18 months, 2 years?
It has been since then, and it's only been 242 days since Donald Trump.
And 242 days in, those words not only ring hollow, they are an affront to the American people, because that is not what this commissioner is looking to do. He's backing a rogue presidency, which is, to your point, trying to cancel the voice of the American people. Now, people may sit there and go, well, you know, it's a television show, but that's an expression of who we are as a community, as a country. We watch these programs. And so how far does this go? I mean, what do you think is next? Simone laid up in the first block. Project 2025 gave the chapter and verse and the specific pages that we want everybody to go to. What is it again?
856 and page 857.
There you go.
She did her homework.
She did her homework. So, but where do you think this goes next?
Well, first of all, the absurdity of this. They are canceling comedy. They're making comedy illegal. I mean, it's one thing.
Right.
It's one thing in this country to go after politicians. It's another thing to even go after hosts like you or Meet the Press or This Week. They're going after comedians.
Satire.
Satire.
Yeah.
We love comedy. We love comedians. This is going to backfire in a way that they don't understand. And it would be comic if it weren't as dangerous. You have the President of the United States threatening the host of This Week, Jonathan Karl, saying that, you know, maybe I should cancel you. You have J.D. Vance telling people to snitch on their fellow citizens and get them fired. You have them talking about prosecuting political organizations which they disagree with. I mean, the last time we had this kind of fear were the Palmer raids in the Red Scare or the McCarthy era. And we should not be naive about what this administration wants to do. They want to use the force of government to squelch any speech that they see as a threat to their view of culture. And this is an opportunity for us to mobilize the entire American people and say, we are for the most fundamental right, every person's equality to speak out. That's the most American thing, and that's what they're taking away.
Can I just make a point? And I know we want to also get to the Epstein files, but I do think, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, it's not just, in my opinion, the free speech of it all. It is systemic. Like the president is not just saying these things, whether we're talking about in terms of like demonizing immigrants, for example. The Department of Homeland Security security has been mobilized and weaponized to carry out that authority. He's not just talking about maybe going after some of the people who were on the opposite side of him or that maybe used to work for him. The Department of Justice is doing that. He's just not suggesting that he will go after people's licenses. The FCC is systemically using language that is in occurrence with their system of like how they conduct business to do just that, to suggest it. Like they're not saying you do this and da da da. They're strongly suggesting, and because the companies need something from the FCC, they are capitulating. So like I would argue, Alicia, that this is systemic. It's not just these people spouting out whatever they want to spout out.
And that's why I want to know from the congressman, you wanted to subpoena Carr. What are the questions you have for Carr that you think would actually illuminate Simone's point?
Well, I want to know what he specifically threatened Nexstar with. What Nexstar, of course, wants a merger from him, and his threats to take down Jimmy Kimmel is partly what made ABC take Jimmy Kimmel off. And
I always start from the place that we may not be in power, but that does not mean that we are powerless. That does not mean that there aren't things that we can do. And what you have just laid out so well is that we are losing our free speech rights, and this is a toxic mix of losing our rights and corruption that is playing out right in front of us. I mean, Brandon Carr said specifically, I think he said today, Trump's election gave us the permission structure. He used that language. It gave us the permission structure to do these things. And they laid it out with this, as you said, sort of anodyne language that sounded like nothing to see here, nothing to worry about. But yet they are methodically going through the steps of taking away people's rights to say what they think, people and organizations' rights to say what they think, even if it, offends the high and mighty. And that is the very dangerous spot that we're in right now. And it's not going to get better. We're not at the end of this road. So I was glad to see those protesters out in California today. And, this is a call to action for us, because the way that you stop authoritarians like this is by not trying to appease them, but by holding them accountable and speaking out and saying, no, we are not powerless in this moment.
Senator, let's talk about that call to action, because today there was a bicameral effort, meaning members of the House, members of the U.S. Senate, presenting a plan forward, additional legal protections for individuals who are targeted by this administration. I want you to talk us through how that might work, and then also talk to us about whether or not you can take some of those principles and apply them to left-leaning groups that, as you said, are being targeted.
Yep. So what we did today, a bicameral group of senators, we said freedom of speech is sacrosanct. It is our most precious right. And what we need to do is to put into law language that will stop the federal government from taking away those free speech rights. And it would give additional tools to individuals that and organizations that are being unfairly targeted or attacked by agents of the federal government, including the President of the United States. That's exactly what we see right now. And of course, these rights are enshrined in the Constitution, yet it turns out that individuals or organizations that are attacked in this way by the federal government don't have nearly the tools that they need in order to be able to fight back. Think about, my colleague Adam Schiff, who's being attacked for, so-called mortgage fraud. He's having to raise so much money to defend himself. Think about the threats of taking a nonprofit organization and the president unilaterally declaring them to be a domestic terrorist organization. We need to have better tools in place for organizations to fight back against that than we have today. That is the idea of this legislation.
So, Senator, what are some of the specific tools that you all present? Because I think a lot of people watching are saying, but no, as you said, this is in the Constitution. Take a listen to new comments tonight from late-night legend David Letterman on Jimmy Kimmel's suspension.
This is misery, and in the world of somebody who is an authoritarian, maybe a dictatorship, sooner or later everyone is going to be touched. And then my good friend Jimmy Kimmel, I feel bad about this because we all see where this is going, correct? It's managed media, and it's no good. It's silly. It's ridiculous, and you can't go around firing somebody because you're fearful or trying to suck up to an authoritarian criminal administration in the Oval Office. That's just not how this works.
David Letterman. First of all, shout out to The Atlantic for having their festival at just the right time. Talk about divine intervention right there.
Well, you know, David touched on for me a very interesting aspect of this, because when I was listening to him, you know what I thought of? I thought of the fact that not too long ago, the United States of America would be raising the alarm bell if they saw what's happening here happening elsewhere around the country, around the globe. They would make sure through the State Department, through USAID, through all of its organs, that, you know, this idea of freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom to live your life would be a paramount argument to make in that moment. And here we are sitting now, as Americans, watching it happen to us. And I found his words to be profoundly important in the sense that the script is now flipped, and I'm wondering who globally is looking at us going, hey, America, remember the day when free speech mattered?
Trump's made a big mistake, and it sort of doomed his coalition, the coalition that helped him win. A lot of it was based on a couple traditional factors. One, the throw the bums out movement. You see this in politics all the time. I'm not happy with how life is right now, and so I'm going to vote for the other guys. Are the other guys better? Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're not. But I don't care. I'm voting for... I want change, even if it's worse change. And then you had people who voted for Trump based on, very traditional demands. Again, whether or not he would deliver them. Lower prices, things like that. He hasn't. He's made it worse. But that's what people voted for him. But there was also a certain type of countercultural voter. A voter who actually bought into the lie that Trump was pro-free speech, anti-censorship, the big corporations telling you what to do and think. And they were the new punk radicals. Him and Vance were going on all these podcasts and saying, we're going to let you have free speech again. And enough people believe that. And these are the kind of voters that are not Republicans. They're Trump voters. They're not Republicans. They're not Democrats either in many cases, but they're not Republicans. These are the people that in Nevada, for example, they went into the polls on election night and they marked Trump and then left the entire rest of the ballot blank. I'm not talking about split voters. Voters who pick maybe pick Trump for president, then voted for a Democratic senator or congressperson. I'm talking about they went in, they voted for Trump, that's all they cared about, and they left. That's Trump's uniquely built coalition. And it's that coalition that he's destroying right now. Because if you go to these right-wing, comedy podcast people, and you look up at what a lot of them are saying, is that all of the things and they're admitting it, they're finally catching up to where we were years ago. They're saying everything we accused Harris and Biden of doing or worried they would do, Trump is doing. Sure, you could get people would get mad at you on the internet if you said slurs when Biden was president. But Biden never pulled FCC licensing for shows that were politically incorrect. Everything that they worried about is happening under the guy they supported specifically. And that coalition will not exist anymore after this.